All right. Today I wanted to analyze the Kong Gainer because Kong Gainer is a very difficult skill, as everyone pretty much knows. And there are some people. It's been done in a few different ways, and I think the I'm going to explain why I think this way that Alfred and Shawn do it is the best way to do it. Obviously, it's an opinion, but I'm going to try to back it up with analysis. The reason I think it's the best way is because it makes the best use of shape change, and you can see from that it creates a pretty decent rotation, but at the same time, it keeps the skill as safe as possible, because I mean the biggest thing with Kong Gainer is you're rotating with your head toward an obstacle, so the more you can do to try to keep yourself away from that obstacle, the better. Now the two main ways you see this done are it's either done as more of a dive Kong and then rotating, or it's done as more of a monkey gainer, which is kind of when you see those people that start really low and they come in a little closer to the wall, and instead of going out and past the wall, they kind of rotate above the obstacle. It tends to be a little slower that way, again, because there's not as much of a shape change. And it also tends to be a little bit scarier because you're above the wall, so if you have any lack of height, you're going to hit your head. And even if you don't hit your head, you're at risk of clipping your feet on the way down and the way up because you're starting closer. So let's take a look at Alfred's Kong Gainer here. This is from his video Dead Style, which is a fantastic video, by the way, and everyone should go watch it. So let's take a look at this. So what we see here, as he takes off, he's doing the dive Kong method. So he's trying to dive, and he's trying to stay relatively low to the obstacle, because as you dive higher, if you dive too high onto the obstacle, you end up with your momentum coming downward as you pop off, which makes the skill 10 times harder because you're already falling. So he's coming up toward it, reaching out far. You can see he's reaching far. And as he gets to the obstacle, he's got this pretty long open shape. And then what Alfred does is, when you're doing a Kong, your momentum is tipping you forward, kind of like a front flip. So your momentum is going forward, which is exactly the opposite of what you want. So what'll happen, you'll see here, is Alfred uses his hands to block through the shoulders. He blocks through his shoulders, which redirects the momentum so that he's taking everything that he was leaning into the wall and he's popping it back out of the wall, which makes his shoulders start to tip backward, which is what allows that rotation to begin. And then so he goes from the shape you can see pressing through the fingertips on the wall. You can see his shoulders start to tip backwards as his knees come through. Now, what makes Kong Gainer so difficult is it's really hard to make a good shape change because of just the mechanics of the skill and the fact that you're going over a wall. So you'll see he's already in this tucked shape because in order to get your knees through, you have to tuck in sooner than you would like to for optimal use of a shape change, which is why the skill is hard. But he used that redirection of momentum through the shoulders to get his shoulders rotating backwards. And in doing the dive, he's also made sure that he has a lot of forward momentum, which is what pulls his rotation away from the wall. And you can see, even though he flung his head back, he still has a good 6 inches to a foot between his head and the wall. And the difference here is when people tend to do the monkey gainer, when they're rotating, they're not rotating past the wall, they're rotating above the wall. Because they don't have that same forward momentum that you get from a dive Kong, because they're instead of diving toward the wall, they're pressing upwards. So their momentum goes up, it gets you a lot of height, but you rotate slower because there's less of a shape change, and you end up with your rotation being above the wall, which is scary for obvious reasons. So now let's look at, this is Shawn's Art of Motion submission, which was crazy, so watch that. Let's look at his Kong Gainer. He does a similar technique. He's a little more aggressive with his shape change. You can see here he's got a much longer shape here than Alfred did. He's reaching really far, diving from really far. And what you'll see is he's a hell of a lot more aggressive with this shoulder block. He gets his hands on, and you can see he's loading up into the wall. Right here, you can start to see that his shoulders were going forward and down, and now you can see the momentum change as he pushes through the fingertips. You can see him really pressing through his fingers. He's getting as much block off that wall as possible, getting his knees in, and that pulls his shoulders now going backwards. Right? He also gets in really tight. The reason his head is closer, as you can see on this clip, it's fairly safe. It's not like he's catastrophically close to the wall. But the reason he's closer is, we'll go back a quick second. He is pushing his shoulders. He's blocking through the shoulders sooner. You can see he's pushing up more rather than letting himself travel farther over the wall, which is going to make his rotation a lot faster, but at the sacrifice of distance from the wall. So his rotation is really quick. But again, he's going to be close to the wall because he's putting his hands farther in front of him and blocking a little more vertically. And then let's just watch this because it's beautiful. Oh my god. Okay. And I just wanted to look at this clip real quick. This is an old clip, but it's from a great video that I love to rewatch because it's just so feel good. But this is Alfred doing double Kong gainer at the classic Colorado Park in Colorado Springs. So double Kong gainer works exactly the same way as the dive Kong gainer. You cannot monkey gainer a double Kong gainer. It doesn't work. So it serves as a really good way of seeing how a Kong gainer would work if it wasn't done as a monkey gainer, and how it really should be done. Because when you do this, just like a double Kong, what you end up with is your feet way out behind you, your hands way out in front of you. So look at that shape right there. Now, it's going to be harder to rotate because his hips are starting higher. So he has more of a flip to complete before he really starts the backflip rotation. He has almost a quarter flip to do before he really starts doing the flip. So that's going to make this a little more difficult in terms of landing, but it's going to rotate pretty quick because he's going from this huge shape into this small shape right here. And that makes the rotation fairly quick. Now, like I said, it's going to be a lot harder to land because you'll look here. He gets this pretty nice rotation, especially right at the beginning, but he has to get all the way to there before he even starts actually doing the flip. So that's what makes this a lot harder, whereas with a regular Kong gainer, your hips can be a little bit lower, which allows you to start that rotation sooner. But yeah, that's why double Kong gainer is harder. There's another clip here of a different Kong gainer. Let's take a look at this one. So monkey gainer, again, this is why monkey gainers, or frog gainer. This is why frog gainer is harder as well. Frog gainer is Kong gainer from a flat surface downward rather than going up onto an obstacle. Frog gainer is harder for that same reason because your hips have to start from higher. And you can see he's trying to eliminate that as much as possible by getting really low to the wall. And it's still, his hips are less high in this than they were in the double Kong gainer. So this rotation is going to be better in terms of getting it around. He doesn't have as much of a block, though, and you can see that because he starts dropping right away. There's really no block because he doesn't. It's really hard to get that same push through the shoulders when you're going down at the wall. He gets a better rotation on that. You can see he's able to open up super early than on the double Kong gainer because he's got his hips lower. But he still won't get as much rotation from that as he'll get from a regular Kong gainer because his hips are higher, for one, and for two, it's a lot harder to get that block when you're coming down onto the wall. And just to give you a comparison point between that and this one. So what I mean by that is you can watch here, he's coming up toward the wall, so he can get a lot more of that push through the shoulders that you can see there than he can when he's coming down at the wall. And that's why he rotates a lot faster and can open the same like early but on a low surface. So thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.